Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live, Laugh, Larry. It's the show where we can all get advice from my dad, Larry. Also, my name's McCary, and I just hit 50,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congratulations. That's pretty cool. In fact, it's a little more than that now.
Yeah, I think now we're getting close to 60,000
Yeah,
at the
that's very
time
cool.
of recording.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Do you remember when I called you to say that I was going to do YouTube?
I think you were kind of waffling, and it wasn't so much do it. You were going to start the channel up, but as far as doing YouTube, yeah, I remember. I was excited. I think I was one of the people who said when you had a YouTube channel back 10 years ago that those videos were worth looking at, and not to give up on that because you were good at it.
Yeah, but there was like a tint of you have to say nice things to me because you're my dad.
Was that what you think I have to say nice things? You think I'm someone pays me to be nice to you?
Yeah.
Just like we used to pay your friends.
Yeah, to hang out with me. Going back to like the beginning, I guess, or when I called you or the phone call to say I was doing YouTube, I remember I had just finished watching season 2 of The Bear, which is funny because season 3 just came out and it's kind of dealing with a similar topic as to where I'm at right now. But season 2 is all about people learning how wonderful it is to like really care about what you do, like the infamous cousin episode where he starts at that one restaurant and he doesn't know why he has to polish the forks, and the whole concept is you have to make every second count, and there's no small parts, only small people or whatever, like the whole like it really,
it's a good message there for sure. Yeah,
like it really means something to like do something that you care about and to do it with people that you care about. And obviously the YouTube stuff I do pretty alone, but at the same time I do a lot of it with you and mom and my friends, and it's just like a fun thing. And anyway, I remember calling you. I was like, Dad, it's kind of morbid, but I was like, I want to do cool shit before you die. I want to be like the bear and I want to do cool shit. And I remember you being like, you do cool shit. Like you wrote a book, you haven't had, well, I got laid off, but you're like, you had a cool job. And I was like, nah, Dad, I want to do cool shit.
I don't think I said hurry though.
Yeah. You're like, you don't got much time.
You better hurry. No.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I remember hanging up the phone on that and being like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to do cool stuff. And I hung up and I drove to Best Buy to buy a laptop because I just I got laid off, so I didn't have a laptop anymore. So I figured I'd need one anyway to apply to hundreds of jobs all the time and study for my project management certificate. So anyway, I was like, I'm going to Best Buy and I'm buying an overpriced laptop and it's going to be a good one because I'm finally going to do YouTube. And I went there and bought the laptop and came home and started filming an episode or like a video that I'd called my 26 list. And it was like my bucket list as a 26-year-old. And one of them's like go on a road trip with Dad and go camping alone. And I don't remember, but just stuff like that. And I filmed this really bad YouTube video and edited it, put it all together. I don't even know where it is now. I think I might have lost it when I lost a lot of my footage because I saved it all incorrectly because I didn't know how to do that yet. And anyway, long story long, in that week, I drove to Best Buy like 7 times. And I'm someone who really relies on Google Maps. I've lived in the same city for like 8 years, and I use Google Maps for everything. But I can now successfully get from my house to Best Buy without Google Maps because I had to go back so many times to get microphones, and it was the wrong ones. I had to go back and get a different microphone, and I was just testing everything. And I don't know, I guess I'm really happy that I did all that within the first week or two because the motivation didn't last. I'm happy I did all of that when I was still really motivated because there were some times when it was really tough where I probably wouldn't have got off my butt to go to Best Buy.
Yeah, well, no, I'm like I said, I'm most impressed by how much you've had to learn and how you've, your ability to learn all the different facets. As someone who doesn't know anything about filmmaking or YouTube, or maybe that's not fair. Maybe I know just enough about it to know that it's tricky, and so I'm very impressed with.
Well, you kind of got me into it, like filmmaking. Like you used to do you made all the family videos, and then you also, when you were principal of the school, didn't you do like a weekly video?
Yeah, when I was principal at a junior high school, I'd walk around with the technology is a little different then, but I'd walk around with a little flip camera, and every couple of weeks, and I'd just take video of kids in the hallway, and I remember saying to them, if you're not smiling, you're not going to be in my video. And then on a Friday night, I'd over it with a beer or something, I'd be sitting at home and I'd just play with iMovie, the version that was out then, and make about a 2-minute video montage of kids doing stuff in the hallways and in the classrooms and smiling, and then put an Ozzy Osbourne song or something to it, and then have it playing as they came into the gym for the assembly. Just a little 2.5-minute, 3-minute video, and they all loved it. They all wanted to see themselves, and so sadly, memory wasn't the way it is now, and so I just thought, I'll just make another one, and so I would delete them as I used them, and so I kind of wish I had some of those 30-year-old, 25-year-old anyway videos now. I think the kids would get a kick out of it. But
how cool to like make people feel like, talk about community and making people feel involved, and like to have, especially in assembly when sometimes they can be really boring, to have a video that you're in. You're like a part of the school. You're a part of the community. You're not just a student going in to learn stuff and get out.
Another thing, I mentioned that I had a boy who was in grade 9 and knew way more about technology than I did. And I remember and he helped me set up these the technology to show these movies and the sound and all that stuff. And I finally said to him one day, I said, why don't you, here's, so many, I think it was a couple of $1,000. And I said, go to the audio store or whatever. I can't remember the name of the store, but I said, go and buy whatever that money will buy you that will make our assemblies have the best video and the best audio. And so I gave this 15-year-old kid this money and the job of doing this and setting it up, and he took it so seriously, and I've never felt so badly. I almost wanted the teachers to fail him a little bit so he could stay for a year or two more, but I remember that too, and that was part of making these assemblies pretty cool. And so I dabbled just enough to know that what you do is pretty impressive.
And also, I guess maybe this is a stretch for me to try to get the dad advice into the podcast early, but a piece of advice that I really liked was, you always say that your advice to new teachers is it's really easy to get the popular kids to like you, or like the outgoing, extroverted kids to like you, but it's your job as a teacher, as the adult in the situation, to get the emo kid maybe who sits on the stairs alone to not necessarily like or respect you, but to make them feel seen.
I think what I was telling you is it was the first time I'd ever had someone ask me, it was a teacher at the time, ask me what it would take to become an administrator. And it was the first time I'd had somebody ask me that question. And I knew the teacher that was in question, and lots of capabilities and lots of strengths. However, there was a bit of a sense in me that he found it pretty easy to be the hero for kids in the leadership class or the basketball team or the honor roll club, but his patience was a little bit less for the kids who were struggling. And I remember telling him that night, it was in my office, I was the assistant superintendent, and I said to him, the goal is, as you just said, it's easy to be loved by those and to love those kids who are easy. But the kids sitting, and I specifically said this, the kids sitting with the piercings and the hoodie and the sitting all alone in the stairwell by themselves, and nothing against piercings or anything like that, but just this stereotypical loner kid. You use the word emo. At the time it was, the kid who just basically was an outcast, whether they wanted to be or they were outcast just by the situation and the new kid at school or whatever the case was, or bringing baggage that none of us knew about from home. And I said, if you're going to be, especially a vice principal at a junior high school, those kids have to be loved by you and love you. But, that you need to establish a relationship with those kids to try and make a difference in their lives. And I can remember that conversation, and I remember after he left, I thought, that made sense. So
that was pretty good advice.
I might use that again someday.
I should start a podcast.
Yeah.
I should call up my daughter and say, Carrie, I need a podcast to make it happen.
25 years later, I don't even think a podcast existed that night.
No, you could have been onto something.
I could have,
Yeah, or just like a full-on narcissist. Like the first person to start a podcast was just a bit of a...
Well, the truth was, that conversation, it was kind of self-defense. I was kind of going, I'm not sure I see you doing this
Yeah.
in this job. So
Yeah.
I don't want to sugarcoat this. I want you to know
Yeah.
that this is something that's just not as easy as learning all the rules and imposing them.
Yeah.
You have to be able to. It was, I think I didn't use this that night, but one of the lines that I used lots afterwards is wisdom. The difference between wisdom and brilliance. Brilliance is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put one in a fruit salad. And so I guess what that means to me is just because you know all the rules doesn't mean you impose them or enforce them the same way every time. You need some wisdom to be able to differentiate between the situations.
Yeah. And I guess if anyone's wondering why I brought that up, to bring full circle to the videos that you made for the assemblies, it was, I'm assuming, that you included all students. It wasn't just the honor roll kids.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't to highlight the basketball team. I mean, not that the basketball team didn't get into the videos, but no, I was the only stipulation was, and my line was, you got to be smiling, or I might cut you out. You know, that kind of thing. So, no, I tried to catch all kinds of kids just enjoying hallway life, enjoying their classroom, the learning situations, outside on the playground, whatever, or the fields, and and I do it once every 2 weeks, and just kind of take, I probably 20 minutes of footage, and I'd turn that into a 2-minute video, 3-minute video.
And I'd say, like, just growing up watching those, because I always loved watching them, and obviously all the family videos, I love those, and there's songs that they're really nostalgic to me because they're in our family videos, or I feel almost weirdly closer to this one particular cousin because we have this amazing family video together. I don't know. It's just like that memory is ingrained in my brain because I've been able to relive it. And, I think like watching those as a kid, I like to think that I put that kind of, maybe nostalgia is not the right word, but that kind of, sentimental value into my videos. And apologies everybody for jumping back and forth here, but I just want to put the nail in the coffin for the advice that you just kind of talked about with the lonely kid in the corner. Did I ever tell you that I used that advice on a boss once?
No.
Yeah, it was, I had the pleasure to work for a company where the leadership team had really open feedback loops. So they wanted to hear feedback from the employees like myself.
Right.
And they responded to it really well. And it wasn't just like a feedback card and fill it out and then the leadership never listens to it. But I had a boss and he was asking for feedback. I don't know if it was quarterly feedback or what. Maybe it was just random, but he asked for feedback. And I said, my main one was, we're a team that was growing really, really fast. And it was in the tech industry, which can be quite bro culture-y. And obviously I'm a lady. And it was essentially, my dad always used to say that it was, the easy part of the job was making friends with the popular kids. And in this case, the tech bros who like to golf and stay for drinks after work. Like that's the easy part of the job as the boss. And I was like, but the harder part is making the developer who is shy or the HR person who is shy feel welcome at the company. And he took that to heart, and he brought that up in, I don't know if he still thinks about it now or anything. I wouldn't say it was like life-changing, but I just remember feeling really heard and appreciating that advice that you gave me or that you had taught me about, because at like a company stand-up that month, that was like one of his main talking points was like, I got this really good advice about leadership.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And he's like, and I want to be better at that. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's until you really, like I said, that night that fella came to my office, I'd never really thought about what separated an administrator or a good administrator from, in my opinion, from someone who just wanted to be an administrator, and
or like a boss versus someone who wanted to be a boss.
A boss, the difference between leadership and service leadership, or that's a whole philosophical conversation about the type of leadership that. And again, it's in my opinion, that's the way it should be. There are others out here that might be even listening, thinking, no, you need to be a lot tougher, and yes, you can put a tomato in a fruit salad if you feel like it because you're
Yeah.
the boss, you know.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Also, can I just say, just to tell you how I'm feeling right now, if in case that's interesting to you, I can feel my body shaking and my heart pounding more just at the thought of giving feedback to a boss. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely am sitting in here. I was listening to what you were saying, but I was having to in my mind be like, deep breath. Like you're not there now. Like even though the boss was so nice,
yeah.
I like feel quite jittery and I'm
Yeah.
taken back to like
Yeah.
all those really uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Like I feel it in my heart. I need
Well,
to like do a lap.
those conversations. I was telling your mom the other day. I woke up with, a very vivid dream that I don't usually remember my dreams, and yes, it's just a dream, but of a very pugnacious conversation with a couple of former colleagues about philosophy and. Waking up tired, going. So it's a big part of your life, and those conversations are really important to have.
Yeah.
Not that one necessarily. I don't think
In your dream.
in my dream. I don't remember it vividly enough to tell you the specifics, but I just know that that's a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Having some sometimes tough conversations with people.
Yeah, getting better at the tough conversations.
Yeah.
No, it's always every interaction's an opportunity to practice human interaction. It's like you just got to remind yourself of that. But all right. I also want to say something cool that happened is speaking of 50,000 subscribers and we're growing. And I know we were talking earlier just downstairs about how I'm really excited for the day that you get recognized because I've been recognized a few times now and it's so cool and exciting, especially to hear people's stories of like watching my videos. But I think the day that if it ever happens that you get recognized, it's going to be wonderful. But I did have someone talk to me about the podcast the other day for the first time.
That's cool.
And like lots of people have said they listened to it and that's really cool. But basically I went to a store and I ran into an old friend from university and he came over and we didn't talk that much in university and whatever. And so he came over and big smile on his face, really, really nice guy. And he was like, I was just listening to the podcast and he showed me his phone and he had Live, Laugh, Larry on. I don't know if he really did.
He might have just saw even,
I'm like,
that's still cool.
It's still, whether he put it on really fast and came and told me or he was actually listening to it. It was just really flattering. And I won't say names, but if you're watching, hi, or listening probably, hi, thank you for that. And I'm going to relate it to the task at the end of the video, but that same person and his partner are really, really nice. And I ran into them again. So much so, like, I ran into them so many times that the first thing that went through my head was, oh my God, they're going to think I'm stalking them. Like, hide. Don't even make eye contact. So I was like, I just don't know how to handle social situations. Anyway, they invited me over to their place for coffee.
Oh, that's very cool.
That doesn't happen.
No,
ever.
no.
And I remember calling you and be like, the best thing happened. Like, who does that?
Yeah, well.
Except for your generation. You guys just have people over for coffees.
Yeah, well, I suppose we do. Maybe not like my mom and dad's generation.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I remember most about my mom and dad's generation was, we'd play with the kids while they drank coffee. We went and visited friends.
Well, it reminded me of like Cafe Mat in Norway. That was like one of my favorite things whenever we go to Norway to visit our family. At the end of the evening, you always have Cafe Mat. So it's after dinner. Yeah. Am I right in that?
Yeah, coffee is obviously coffee. Mat is food.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess Cafe Mat, you're right. That's just what like we call it, like our family in Canada is like we call the coffee food part the activity. But I'm going to stick with it. But like, no, I love it. And we'd be at our cousin Venka's house or your cousin, my
dad's cousin, actually.
Your dad's cousin and my second cousin twice removed, whatever. But we'd be at her place and just visiting. And over the span of 2 hours, so many people would come in and she'd just invite them in for coffee. Yeah.
It's a unique valley in Norway, but I'm not sure if everybody does that, but the coffee mat there is a little different than just throwing, some Oreos on the table with the coffee. It was a full on, there was lots of different food and maybe more than we should have had, but it's a special treat, the coffee mat in Norway.
But I just love that. And I remember when I was on exchange in Austria, we got to take one class and it was about it was like a cultural class, and I remember they were saying our German teacher was saying that North Americans are like peaches and Austrians are like coconuts, or that she said we're hard on the outside but really soft on the inside, whereas North Americans are more soft on the outside and cheery, but maybe a little
But with
harder.
a tough
Yeah,
tough
like
nut in the
maybe a
middle,
little
yeah.
harder on the inside. And her example was just inviting people over. And
Yeah.
she's like, and obviously I don't mean to generalize, but I actually do agree with her on this because it's kind of, I've experienced it as well. But like in Europe, or in my case, Austria and Norway, everyone was so quick to open their doors. Like a random that you'd meet on the street was just so quick to be like, oh, come over for coffee. You're like, yeah, let's just hang out and talk. Whereas like maybe they seemed a little standoffish when you first met, or maybe the waiters and waitresses are a little bit more standoffish.
Dude, yeah.
But yeah, then whereas in Canada, it's like all of the waiters and everyone, and myself included, it's all, you have your customer service voice, like, hi, how are you today?
Yeah.
But then I'm not going to be as quick to invite a stranger over to my house.
Yeah. That's probably a fair generalization.
Yeah.
Based on my experience too.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like the idea of just like inviting people over for coffee. I think it's really kind.
I am with you.
Yeah. Am I boring you?
No, you're not. No.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is good. I like it.
What are you thinking about right now?
No, I like that what is it? You're going to cut this out, but this is the banter. This is talking. It's a conversation. And I love it. Makes me smile because I hope I get to do some more coffee mott in my life and sit in that valley and drink coffee and try my Norwegian out.
Yeah. Cool. Can you say anything in Norwegian for all the Norwegians listening?
Yeah, well, jeg kan ikke snakke norsk mye.
You don't speak very much Norwegian?
No, jeg forstår litt. Jeg kan forstå litt.
Which means?
I can understand a little.
Cool. All right. Well, that was fun banter, I would say.
Especially when we slipped in a little Norsk.
Yeah. Look, everybody, we're bilingual.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any stories today to prove that you're my dad? I don't know if us going back and forth for the last 30 minutes.
The one I think kill two birds with one stone is someone asked in one of the comments where your name came from. So I thought this way I could prove that you're my daughter and say that I know the story. And your name being McCary, your mom's last name is Ma. Mom is half Chinese, and her name is Ma, M-A-H. And my Norwegian grandmother was Kari, K-A-R-I. So we combined Ma and Kari. So we got the McCary. But truthfully, and you mentioned Venka, the Norwegian cousin, they say it the way it probably should be said, Makari, with the little roll of the R. And pronounce, because my grandmother was Kari or Kari, not Carrie.
Carrie, yeah.
But we Canadianized it, and she was called Carrie by most people. But that's where your name came from. And at first, it was your mom was really excited about it. I was thinking, well, it's a little different. But the second we saw you, and the moment you were born, and we said you're McCary, you've been McCary ever since, and no other name would suit. So I think that's how it works.
Mom did say, actually, not to like poke holes in your story, but I was a C-section baby, and she did say that the second she saw me, she thought it was like the scene from Alien. When the alien pops out.
That could have been the drugs they had her on.
Yeah.
I thought you were beautiful.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I looked exactly like you, especially as a baby. I'm just like this bald, big nose. Did you have other names?
I don't. Mom had a couple of other ones. She was thinking of Larry with an I, and I'm thinking that wouldn't cut it.
You're joking. Larry.
Larry. And it's like anybody, you can't. It's hard to imagine yourself or anybody else with a different name after a while.
Yeah.
But when you're choosing names, like your brother's name is Sai.
We can't say that.
Oh, I can't say that?
No, I don't. We probably shouldn't say his name.
I can say his
you're
name.
You're famous now. People are gonna find him.
Yeah. Anyways, I just remember his name was supposed to be something totally different until the moment he was born. I saw him and said he doesn't look like the one I had picked out or we had picked out. So the doctor asked me, and what's this hockey player's name going to be? And I said, Sai. And that's what it was.
I have the biggest urge. I don't know how much energy I'm going to have later when I edit this tonight, but I have the biggest urge to bleep out his name and put like asswipe.
He's so sensitive.
Yeah. Well, he did tell me he's only listened to like 4 episodes, so
Yeah.
he can get mad at me in 2 years, and he
Yeah,
finally
when
gets
he
around
finally
to this
gets
one.
to this one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
funny.
we wanted to name him Asswipe.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But yeah, actually, Julia asked that question in the comments. And then there's actually another question that was sent in. I might as well segue into that. But Aoife, spelled Aoife, sent in an audio message about my name. And I'm going to play it just because, because she has an awesome accent. And she also had a bit of a follow-up question to it. So,
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Hi, Macari and Larry. My name is Aoife and I'm from Ireland. Forgive me if it's not the case where you are, but to me, Macari is a really unusual name. And I find the topic of names really interesting. And I was just wondering, Larry, if you had any advice to people who are naming, be it a child or a dog or a plant or whatever. I just think Macari is such an interesting name, and I would be interested to hear your thought process behind choosing the name. Thank you.
So to start,
Okay.
because there was obviously lots of really good questions baked into there.
Yeah.
What would you name a black and white dog with 3 legs?
A black and white dog with 3 legs. My go-to on anything like that is Skippy.
Mm-hmm. What would you name a tall green house plant?
A tall green house plant.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch.
You know what? I just thought of a memory. This isn't. I had made this. I made a kid cry as a kid because, to be fair, I think he was a little sensitive. No offense. But we had these plants in school, and each of us had our own little plant, and we were going around naming them. And I said I named mine Teresa because it was a little tree, which is hilarious, especially for a 5-year-old to come up with, if I do say so myself. I'll have to cut this because I sound like a narcissist, and I can see it in your face that you're thinking, McCary, you're being a narcissist.
No, I'm not.
Really? Well, then what's going through your head right now?
I was just thinking that my first girlfriend's name was Teresa.
Okay.
She broke my heart.
Oh, well, sorry for the memories. But no, I named it Teresa, and this little boy, he looked over at me and he starts to cry and he goes, "My mom's name is Teresa. You shouldn't name a plant. Like, it's not a plant's name."
Yeah.
And then he just started crying.
Oh, that's too bad.
And that's my memory of naming plants.
Yeah.
I felt really bad about that one, but it goes to show you just can't please everyone. But Eva asked or said, I don't know if this is common or not in Canada, but yeah, no, it's definitely not common. I've never met a McCary. We Googled my name and it's a Russian man's name.
I used to tease you about that.
Yeah, that or a skin whitening cream.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with the Russian dancer. And Aoife's question, as someone from Ireland, I actually think we Canadians and maybe North Americans in general, we tended, at least for a long time, tended to have, pretty boring names. We stuck with the same names, and then there was
I don't know, Dad. Larry's a very fancy name.
I was just gonna say, when I was born in 1958, my dad's name was Hans.
Mm-hmm.
A Norwegian, and he'd been born in Canada, but his parents had only been in Canada for a couple of years, so he was Hans, and dad was teased a little bit when he was a kid because of his name, his immigrant's name.
I was gonna say, are we gonna mention it was because of racism? Or
Yeah, well, it was.
Yeah.
And so when I was born, all those years later, and Dad was a young dad. He just wanted to make sure that I had the most Americanized name. So my name's not Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
It's what every pool hall and barber shop in North America seemed to be named back in the day. And so my name's Larry.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, in Ireland, I love how the names, the Irish names and the spellings, and I think maybe Ireland has the corner on choosing great names.
Yeah.
Like yours
Aoife.
alone, Aoife. I love those names. We tend to get, and I'm not going to say a bunch of names and offend anyone, but I tend to think that, although it's changing now, I tend to think we went through a few generations of kind of just reusing the same names, and
and you're allowed to say that because your name's Larry.
And because my name's Larry.
You're not like on some high horse.
I'm not. So,
No offense.
I don't have the perfect name. So
Yeah.
I honestly do believe most people grow to their name. And even if at first you think that's a different name, within days, all of a sudden you can't imagine that person or even that baby that being anything but that.
Yeah.
And so, as long as you don't, I don't know if parents have done it in mean-spirited ways, but you've got parents that, in my mind, have made choices that, as a teacher, I know when you're taking the role, I'm going, oh my gosh, you did that? You combined that last name with this first name, and that poor kid has to, explain himself.
Cool. All right. So, oh yeah. So I'd mentioned that Aoife and Julia both kind of asked questions about naming and my name specifically. Julia also added onto her comment that my mom and I are incredibly close, but my dad and I aren't as connected. Our conversations are really surface level. I'd love to hear if your bond with your dad was a journey or if you've always been close. Have we always been close?
Well, I'd like to think we're close, but how do you measure that? And not that we haven't had our, sometimes I think our personalities are similar enough that we clash.
You bother me so much sometimes.
Well, yeah, there's times you're so obnoxious. No, I think at times, we're both capable of being moody, and we're both capable of not, having the, being open-minded enough right away and not thinking it through. But I think that's every relationship, and I think that's part of the journey. You use the word journey. It's a journey, and I think it's a journey you need to choose to take. And it's when you don't even do that. If there's no interaction, there's no bumps in the road. There's no to use the word again. If there's no journey, then there won't be any relationship, good or bad.
Yeah, I talked about earlier how the conversation with my boss made me all anxious, even now talking about it. And it's like, those are actually kind of the conversations that make you closer to people and like having those deeper. But I probably fight with you more than anybody else.
Yeah, well, you're kind of picky,
Picky.
Yeah.
Here's the podcast where we hash it out. Gloves come off.
Well, there's what's that line? My way or the highway? My way or the highway kind of line. Yeah, it's...
No, what's your comment that makes you want to throat punch you? It's the one where if you're traveling on my dollar...
Oh, yeah.
You made a poem.
Well, I made a poem, and I think it's very... It fits so many times. It goes like this. If we travel on my dime, I shall determine the departure time. Yeah. Because I have to admit, I'm one of those airport dads. I like to know where
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You are the airport dad. You started the airport dad trend. All the other airport dads saw you and thought, I want to be that guy.
I think they did.
Yeah.
I have the, I like to know where the passports are and the boarding passes. I like to be a little bit early. Like a couple of days.
Yeah, literally. I have a memory of being at the airport like 24 hours early.
I have some stories. They're too long to tell today, but I have some stories about why being early has saved our bacon a couple times. So, I'm at the point now where, like I said, I think the poem goes like this.
You already said it. We don't need to hear it again. What are you talking about? I'm going to let you say it once.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about something about my dime.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've ever. We're way closer now than we used to be. Would you say so?
Well,
is that news? I don't.
No, I don't. I don't want it to sound like we were at each other's throats. I think, and if it's a regret as a dad, as an older, I got busy, and my job, in my mind, required me to be there a lot or to be away a lot. And you were very independent. You're a smart kid, and so it was. I did not spend the time with you that I would wish I had. And I think a lot of folks are like that. And not that I was sitting in the bar, or it was. I was out, trying to either improve myself or do a better job at whatever job I had at the time. but yeah, it's something that in hindsight, I wish I'd have spent more time. That's why when, for example, a few weeks ago, when you asked me to go camping and yeah, let's go do the camping, and we ended up doing the Airbnb thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part in that little video where you said, this is the first time we've done that.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me kind of go, oh, how come that's the first time? How come you're just about your age now and we haven't done that? And not that we didn't travel together, we haven't done things, but just dad and daughter stuff. I don't know if we specifically set that stuff aside. And this is back to Julie's question about the journey. Julia, sorry. I did some learning on the journey, about what was important, in terms of where and who I spent my time with. And I again, partly it was McCary just was a very independent, capable kid who didn't maybe need, and that was my excuse. School was easy. There was never a spot where I thought, boy, she needs me to take some time off and fix her or to guide her. She was, and so that's the kind of thing I guess I would caution parents: don't take those kids, your kids for granted just because they're capable of taking care of themselves and staying out of trouble and doing well at the traditional things like school and jobs and whatever it is. Don't take that for granted and make an effort to spend the time. That being said, we did. I don't want to sound like I never saw you, but it has been. It has been
when
fun.
you came home every, that one day every year, those were special times.
Yeah, we had Christmases were always so good.
Was such a beautiful day. Yeah. No, I was super lucky because you and Mom, obviously you worked a lot, both of you full time, and like would work late in the evenings and all that kind of stuff. But you also were at all of my volleyball games, all of my plays. You had summers and like spring break, you had all those off, so like we spent a lot of time together when you weren't working,
right?
But obviously I was a kid doing kid things, and I think I was probably an irritating teenager, I would imagine. I have memories, and I moved away early to go to Grand Prairie, like I talked about in the last episode. So we didn't see a lot of each other when I was in high school, and then I moved to university and I was a plane ride away, and we didn't see much of each other, and you were busy, Mom was busy. And then I think it wasn't until you guys moved here and we started seeing each other a lot. And then you had last year you had the heart attack. I won't go into the other health scare, but 5 or 6 years ago now you had
falling apart.
Yeah, you're falling apart. But 5 or 6 years ago you had those silly masses in your brain that they found, and that was pretty scary. So I think the thing that brought us together was, one, your forced retirement because of your health scare 6 years ago. Yeah. 2, you living closer by and me being more of an adult now. Probably helped that we didn't live together anymore.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Are these offensive things to say?
No. I think you're nailing it.
Yeah. I like spending time with you. It's not like I have to. And I think if we lived together, I would be irritated.
Yeah. And it's funny, and as I think about it now, I'm not sure what the optimal amount of time is, or I don't think it hurt that you were independent and you learned to make decisions on your own. It's not like you were the ultimate latchkey kid who had to make your own meals and we were gone overnight. It wasn't like that at all. It was that we weren't necessarily there to pick up after you all the time, and you were independent.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of cool for you guys too to have been your own people as well. And I'm not making any comments about any other parenting style. Like, this is just specifically I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing a different type of parenting style, but just from like our experience, or maybe your guys' experience, and how I saw it as a kid and how I see it now is like you and Mom had your hobbies and your jobs that you cared really deeply about, and like the people that you cared deeply about. And growing up, it was really cool to like see that and to see, if you work hard at something, you can make a difference. And yeah, it's not like you were gone all the time when I was lonely and sad. It was just like you guys were becoming your own individual beings, and I was able to be there for process and see it. And as a result, I kind of became my own individual being.
Yeah.
We weren't this like, now we do a
Yeah.
lot of stuff together and we're all codependent on each other. But
Yeah.
like, I think growing up, we were very
Yeah.
independent, which was cool.
Yeah, but you know, you mentioned hobbies. I think work became my hobby.
Yeah, I said it and I didn't really mean
Yeah,
it.
I
You're not really a hobby guy.
I didn't have a lot of hobbies. I picked up I used to feel guilty if I picked up my guitar for more than 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But my hobby, like even making those movies when I was a principal,
Mm-hmm.
that became, you know, or when I was, you know, I was working for the ministry, and every time it did say watch a show or go on social media, I was looking for something that would be a good metaphor or a good story for a presentation or for a meeting, or for feedback.
Well, even Mom, like, sorry to interrupt, but when she did her master's,
Yeah.
her master's was on me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was my speech
Your
development.
Yeah.
So every word from when I was a baby to 2
Yeah.
is written down.
Is
Not
in
in like
her-
a weird, crazy
No,
lady
it's
way.
in her thesis. It's very cool.
It's her thesis. Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, we should read it for the podcast one
Yeah,
time because it
yeah.
has my jokes in it as
Yeah.
a 2-year-old. But no, it's just like, yeah, what you guys were doing was, everything was, it could be used in work.
Back to the question, you can see, Julia, that it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way the journey is going. I like I like the situation we're in now. And I'll say again, this podcast, for what it's worth, whether the only people that listen to it are McCary and I listening to it down the road, this is part of the journey. And I've always said, when you can visit with your adult children and they want to visit with you, that's bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So however this ride or this journey has been, it's going in the direction that I want it to be.
Yeah.
So I hope it is for you too.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. You still bother me sometimes,
Yeah.
but I was listening to a cool podcast about how to handle your own emotions and stuff because I'm trying to get better at that.
Mhm.
Mom is so good at
Mhm.
handling her own emotions, and I'd say you and I could do some
Mm-hmm.
work. But the podcast, the doctor specialist was just saying how, you don't get all the good parts of life without having to do all the bad parts. And I'm really paraphrasing, but you don't get to do the good parts without doing all the bad parts. And there's plenty of time to not have to deal with all the crappy parts when you're dead.
Yeah.
So yeah. And she kind of said what you said is like the best relationships are the ones that have the tough parts, or like
Wow.
the deep conversations and the hard conversations.
Yeah. I don't think you could really get to know each other as well if you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
if everything was whitewashed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
So,
Well, there's more questions, and they actually kind of relate to this topic, but I think I'm going to save it because we're running out of time. I'm going to save it for the next episode.
Okay.
So stay tuned for next Monday at 7 a.m. But it's now time for a final segment called Larry Loves, plus things that McCary likes too. What do you love lately, Dad?
well, you know what I love right now that's very specific to this next few days is I love that we have tickets to fly to Nova Scotia, going to see some friends and listen to music. And if you've never been to Nova Scotia, it is probably, I think the music, besides being beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
the music, it seems like everyone, I'm generalizing now, but everyone seems to be able to play an instrument or sing harmonies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kitchen parties and good people. So looking forward to that. I love that I'm that's on my agenda for the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Fun.
Mm-hmm. And you.
Like, what do I love lately?
Yeah.
Or what do I like? I'm going to say, actually, it kind of relates to the whole emotions conversation we were just having, but I had a really fun day in my town with my niece the other
Mhm.
day. She's 8.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she's 8, and I got to, we had our first aunt-niece day. And I was really nervous because I've never had aunt-niece time before. I'm
Exclusively.
exclusively, yeah, like especially in a different city from everybody else. And I took her, we went on a road trip, and that was really nerve-wracking. And we did all the fun stuff, and I got to be the cool aunt, which is my dream job. Well, I don't know, we should ask her what she thinks, but I felt like we had a good time. But we watched a movie called Elemental. And I
Mhm.
love cartoons. I love animations. I was trying to explain that to her because she's 8, and she's like, well, can we watch a real movie? They're better. And I was like, no. Like, you don't understand. Animation can go beyond the bounds of
Yeah.
what real movies can't do. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I love animated movies. I think they're great and really creative and wonderful. Anyway, so whenever I get to watch like a Disney Pixar movie or something with a kid, I like love that opportunity. And anyway, I asked her before the movie started, I was like, will I cry? And she said, no, you'll be fine. And I cried 3 times because the movie's beautiful. The main character, well, there's 2 main characters. There's the girl and the guy, and they fall in love. And the guy just reminded me so much of Jackson because he's just such a nice person who
That's
listens.
sweet.
Yeah. And so I was just like really emotional for that because I was like, wow, Jackson's such a nice guy, blah, 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 whatever. That made me cry. And also just how well and how cool it is that kids' movies nowadays really touch on big subjects. Like the movie itself was about like immigrant families and father-daughter relationships and wanting to,
Right.
you know, be in, I'm not saying this is us, but like, you know, in this situation, it was the kid wanting to please the dad, but also not knowing how to live their own life and that whole thing. And it was a really big, it's called Elemental. So it was very big on emotions and how, you know, it's good to talk through your emotions instead of bottling them up. And all of your emotions, just because you feel guilty, you're jealous or sad, doesn't mean that it's a bad emotion. It just means that you're human and you have to get through that emotion. And I just felt like it's such a good message that's so great for kids to learn, but also so great for adults to be reminded of, and also learn for the first time that, you know, just because you're feeling some emotions doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're human. And I thought they had a really beautiful way of capturing that in the movie. And like I said, I cried 3 times. And yeah, that was a great movie, and I think everyone should watch it.
Well, you've told me about that movie, and I'm inspired to watch it. But I have to admit, the thing that kind of made me cry from your niece aunt day together with that's my granddaughter was the fact that you guys did like a 7 o'clock in the morning dive into the Pacific Ocean, which, regardless of whether or not it's July, is cold.
Yeah.
And she thought that was so cool that she had been dove into the ocean with Auntie Mac, because there's a girl that will sleep in the mornings when she doesn't have to get up, and she did that with you, and she was very proud of herself. So that was fun to watch. I appreciated the video you sent. Yeah.
No, it was fun. It was a good time, but that's all that I have that I love. So, that would have. Well, that's all we have time for. How do you think we did today, Dad?
That was. I had no idea which direction we were going. We talked from names to our journey together, and I hope people enjoy listening to it. And I know for a fact that someday down the road, I'll enjoy listening to it, even if nobody else does. So.
Same. And actually, my niece and your granddaughter listens to it, which is so cool. Very, very cool.
Oh, that's one other thing. Can I tell a granddaughter is the first thing she wanted to do when she got to Grandma and Grandpa's house, we went out to we have a little she shed and set up, and there was a microphone, and so we rigged up a microphone stand with an extra microphone at the other end, and we plugged them in, and she hosted a podcast.
Yeah.
And we basically called it the Live Love Grandpa. And she was very eloquent, and is obvious that she's impressed by Auntie Mac.
And what the coolest thing about that for me, there's a lot of reasons why it's cool, but one of the coolest is that you guys did that for fun, and it wasn't recorded, other than for like maybe family video's sake, but it was recorded. It was just something fun to do together. And that's something, just as I'm doing this whole YouTube thing, and obviously I care about what type of message I'm sending to my nieces and stuff. It's like creating stuff for the fun of it is what's so important. And so I'm really happy that she wanted to do that just to do, not to post online and have people see it or to like it. And so that's really cool to know that they like to do that.
No, it was wonderful. And at the end of the segment, and I'd finished answering her question, this 8-year-old says to me, "Well, that's splendid."
Yeah.
That's
too
wonderful.
Fun. Cool.
Anyways, this is fun, hon.
Cool. Well, if you out there enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment your favorite part. It will really help us get this. Oh, I shouldn't say get it off the ground because this is episode 9, but it'll help this podcast keep thriving like it is.
Rolling along.
Keep rolling. And if you're in need of some dad advice, please send in your question using the link below or email us at livelaughlarrypod@gmail.com. And lastly, this week's task is to invite someone over for coffee.
Oh, wow. You know, what if I invited them to go for a walk and have coffee?
I think you can go for a walk and have coffee.
Okay, good.
I think that's allowed, especially like for my age group. It's like, how do you invite someone over for coffee?
I don't mind inviting someone over, but it's so nice to go walk for coffee here.
That's true. Go for a coffee, but bonus points if you actually invite somebody over.
Okay, bonus points.
Bonus points.
Okay,
The magic imaginary
I'll have to
bonus
invite
points.
somebody then.
Which you still haven't done your task from last week, which is to organize something, but
Tomorrow.
cool.
Tomorrow.
All right. Well, that's all we got. Dad, let us know the famous last words before it ends.
I thought the last words had already been done. Okay, the last words. I don't have a plethora of words at this point. I might be out of words. Yeah, you're going to ruin the journey.